it a try. It looks like we've got our guest up and going here on Super Talk here at on Good Things, which is a good thing. So welcome, Dr. Barbara Coatney. Hey, Dr. Coatney.
Hi, good afternoon. How are you guys doing?
We are making it through these technical difficulties, so don't you worry about it one bit. But I still love your story. So you are the founder of the startup called Time Touch Take, which is very, to me, timely, and I think it's a very useful product. So let's go back to how you got inspired to create Time Touch Take.
I got inspired because of my brother-in-law. He was sick. Let me just back up just a little bit. My nephew, my sister is deceased, and my nephew called me one day and asked me if I would go and check on his dad. He had just gotten a job in Atlanta, so he couldn't get off of work. And I said, well, yeah, I guess I can do that. So I go in the hospital, and I get there, and he's blind. I didn't know he was blind. And I'm like, I speak to him, and I said, Ronnie, how you doing? And he said, who is it? I said, you're looking right at me. And he said, huh? I said, you're looking right at me. And he said, I'm blind. So, my heart just fell to the floor. I felt like, somebody had slapped me. And later on, after having a couple of conversations with him, I told him I'd take him home. I get to his house, and pills were everywhere, all over the floor, just in the bathroom, just everywhere. And I said, Ronnie, I see why you've been so sick. You've got pills everywhere. He says, I can't see how to take my pills. So I came up with a couple ideas, and then I decided that moving closer to my home, and so I moved him in an apartment complex about 7 minutes from me. And we still had the same problem because I couldn't stay there with him all the time to give him his medication. So one day I was walking through the toy store because I'm a former teacher, and that's what teachers do. And I was walking through the toy store, and I thought about it. I said, if I give him this, and he can feel it, and he can touch it, and I put a timer on his watch, I can get him to take his pills. So we did a different versions over and over, and it worked. He began to take his pills okay. And I took him to the doctor, and his cardiologist asked him, what are you doing different? And he says, well, I take my medication. He says, so you take your medication every day? That's all it took? And he said, yes. And so from that point, I was like, And I did a little research because I'm one of those people. And I found out there was really nothing designed to help people who had problems such as his. And I wrote a paper, put it on the shelf, decided I'd send it after COVID hit. I pulled it out, started reading it, sent it to USN, and USN told me don't send it to anybody else. These are the people I needed to contact, and that's what I did, and that's how I got started. I contacted a couple of engineers, and then I contacted Innovate Mississippi. And that's how I got involved with Innovate Mississippi.
This was a personal story for you with your brother-in-law, Dr. Coatney, but it's not uncommon, right? How many people do you feel like through your research have this problem of either not being able to see their medication or maybe be elderly and not really be able to organize it all or sort of keep track with it all? This is kind of an epidemic, right?
It is an epidemic. There are millions of people who are dying every year, thousands of people who are dying every year who don't know how to take their medication. And they're dying because they can't take it on time. And with the graying of America, with senior citizens, we got a huge number of senior citizens in this country now, and they're at home. They want to stay in their homes because they're somewhat active, and their problem is that they can't take their meds. I have a friend who, she told me, she says, I can't wait till you get this on the market because I forget when to take my meds. And my design is designed for people who are either, medically fragile or visually impaired.
How many?
But there are, the accidental death, and I should have pulled my notes out, but the accidental death rate for people who are visually impaired is extremely high.
Well, it makes sense, Dr. Coatney. I mean, if you can't see your medication, if one falls on the floor, you're not familiar with the touch or the feel of them, it's easy to kind of get them sort of mixed up. Or I think, too, just remembering when to take them, especially if they're at staggered times or ones with meals or ones, 20 or 30 minutes after you eat. I mean, I think anyone who has to take medication on a regular basis or who has been a caregiver of someone who has been on several meds, either for a short period of time or maybe for a long period of time, can definitely empathize with the fact that it's harder than it sounds, right? Like when the doctor's like, "Oh, all you're doing is taking your medicine." Well, it tends to work when you're able to take it as prescribed, but that is a big issue. So, how does what can you share about your product on how it works?
Well, I can tell you that it is a system that is set up to notify the caregiver, and it is also to notify the person who's taking the medicine. If the person doesn't get up and take the medicine, it notifies the caregiver, and it also notifies the caregiver when the medication needs to be refilled. Basically, that's kind of that in a nutshell. It has a basic design. I've applied for my non-provisional patent on this. We're at the last stages, so I can't share too
That's okay.
terribly much.
Yeah, I understand.
But it is something that, when it solves a problem. Yeah, and even me, I forget to take my meds. Some mornings I get up and I'm in a hurry. If something doesn't go off in my head to tell me that it is time to take my meds, I just walk out the door and go and do what I have to do. And about 12 o'clock, I'm like, I didn't take my medicine today. So with that being said, it happens to all of us, even though it's designed for the blind and visually impaired and medically fragile. Anyone could be able to use it. So if you're like me and you get busy and you forget.
Dr. Coatney, how do we keep up with when your product will be released? And that's Time, Touch, Take. I think there's a lot of folks listening to Good Things that would love to be on a mailing list or at least, following this Mississippi startup. So when you do get to the point where we can take part in it, we want to support you.
I would love to have your support because, I want it to be made in Mississippi. It's a Mississippi product. It's a Mississippi idea. And, we have so many other bad things in Mississippi. We forget all the good things that's happening in Mississippi. So I will notify Innovate Mississippi when it's ready, and I probably could shoot you a quick email.
I think that would be a great thing. Yeah, please do that. We appreciate your time and at least getting us introduced to Time, Touch, Take, and this will be a story we will definitely be following.
Okay, and I appreciate you guys reaching out to me. It's just an idea that I think will work.
It will work, and we will be here to spread that news when it gets time to take advantage of it. So I appreciate your time, and everyone else stick with us. We've got more for you coming up.